Hey y'all, hey. What's up? Hey Molson Man, hey Cement Shoes, hey Coolest Reviews, Shmeda. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing well. Oh, sorry I'm a little bit tardy. I hope you don't I hope it doesn't reflect on my final report card. It's been a week, man. I haven't done an opening or anything for this cuz uh yesterday the opening statements were supposed to begin, but evidently they were not done picking a jury. I guess it took a while for them to get the jury picked out. So they started this morning, and I kept saying to myself all day, quit fucking around. You got to make an opening. You got to make an opening. But I didn't. Yeah, it literally just started, Molson Man, just started. So you haven't we're just gonna, hey Heather, whatever, good to see ya. We haven't we're just gonna do the opening statements tonight, and I'm just gonna give you guys an overview. So basically, this takes place, this crime occurred in Winter Park, Florida, which is Orange County, Florida. So kind of by Orlando, where Disney World is. So it's Central Florida. Um, it's a quiet area. It's everybody just doing their normal everyday things, and this couple lived there, Danielle and Michael Redlick. Michael was 65 and Danielle was 45 in 2019. This happened in January of 2019. And he's a former NBA executive. So basically, they get a 911 call, right? And they go out there and they, you know, uh, arrive, okay, at like 10 o'clock in the morning the following day. This is supposed to have, they think this, well, they know that this happened on January 11th, and 911 wasn't called until January 12th. So they get out there, and yeah, it was a scene. And so evidently Miss Mrs. Redlick is accused of murdering her husband, and he wasn't always her husband. So years and years before, okay, he had married Danielle's mother. But the reason why he married her mother, this is how he became her stepfather and then later on her husband, was that her mom had, excuse me, had cancer, and couldn't afford medical health insurance. So they got married, and then after her mother passed away, um, she married Michael. And so that's what happened. So yeah, they were married for 17 years. Hey, Callie, it wasn't like as, hi, Jody, it's cool. It wasn't super duper scandalous, but the thing is that, yeah, she did call 911, Molson Man, 11 hours later. And so during the, I know I know where the, not, hey, Nonstop Mom. Hey, you guys just coming in. I know where the 911 call is located. I'm sure they're gonna play it during the trial, but we can play it if you guys want to before we get started. But anyway, so yeah, she did. She called 911, but she called 911 11 hours um, after she had allegedly stabbed him. And so, but while the police are conducting their investigation, of course, they're searching not just the home, right? Which when they came into the home, they could smell bleach, and they saw like cleaning supplies, and yeah, it was a whole thing. But they also searched her electronics, and apparently she had been perusing a dating website for like 3 hours after she had allegedly stabbed him. I watched a little teeny tiny bit um, just this morning, a little bit, because I kind of wanted to see, what was going on. And there's quite the kerfuffle about this case going on right now, just simply because she, her defense attorneys are, how do I say this? I guess the best way to put it is that the way that I guess she's going for self-defense. Is her defense, and that her defense attorney in their opening statement said, well, she only stabbed him one time. And that's not like a direct quote, but so yeah. So we're going to watch the opening statements and stuff today. Because I didn't plan on being on here super duper long. I got to find where I put the 911 call. But yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. Hey, Momo. So yeah, I mean, I suppose one could argue that unlike some people, Ezra, I'm looking at you, who stab their victims, multiple times. One stab could be indicative of self-defense. But then you have the whole thing about why didn't she call 911 immediately? Why did she clean up? And of course, they're going to get into all of that, but my computer is lagging for some reason. I don't know what it's doing. Hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, that's what's happening. So we're just going to watch the opening statements, and I'm going to find the 911 tape. Let me play the opening statements first. This is the prosecution, their opening. So here we go.
Mr. Wiggins, I'll let you know in 2 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. January 12th, 2019, at about 7 in the morning. Mrs. Redlick is awake in her Winter Park home that she shares with her husband of over 15 years.
Hey, Chick.
Michael Redlick. A home that she shares with her 2 minor children, Jaden and Sawyer Redlick. And she is doing what many of us do when we first wake up in the morning. She's on her phone. However, this morning is unlike any other morning, because approximately 9 hours before this moment in time, that defendant,
hey, Amelia Sparkles,
plunged a knife into the shoulder of Michael Redlick, which would cause him to bleed to death in that home they shared. The home that she is standing in this moment in time looks like something from a horror movie.
Oh, you're right, Molson, man. It was
It is 7:22 in the morning. And Miss Redlick opens up her dating website, and she views the conversations that she's been carrying on. Through the course of this trial, you are going to learn about
babe.
A number of individuals.
Jaden
and Sawyer. And what you'll learn about Michael is this. He was a senior executive with multiple professional sports teams. He left the professional sports arena and moved to the Central Florida area to work as the Director of External Affairs and Partnerships at the UCF DeVos Sports Management Program. He's a dedicated father. He's a husband. He's a person, and like all people, has his faults. But the evidence will show at the time of the murder that the relationship, which had been terrible for so long, was one that Michael had not given up on, was one that he still wanted to make work. You will learn that Danielle is quite a bit younger than Michael. She was a stay-at-home mom to the two children, which of course is a significant job in and of itself. And you will learn that Danielle Redlick had been extraordinarily unhappy in this marriage for a half a decade or more.
I'm not a fan of the
You'll
white
learn
blazer.
that in January and February of 2018, Miss Redlick comes to believe that Mr. Redlick has been unfaithful. And this would seem to lead to a major decision, which was the defendant's choice to file for divorce. She would ultimately abandon that effort, but
I'd
in
never
that time
understand
period,
that. Divorce is way
Michael moves
cheaper
out of the
than
house.
better than
He
prison.
moves to sort of a nearby residence or a nearby townhome, and does everything he can to maintain his relationship with his children. But Michael wasn't done with the marriage. Michael wasn't done
Yes,
wanting
Allie.
to live under that roof.
That's correct.
Under the roof
He
that
does
he would be
talk
murdered
slow,
in.
bro. We're gonna have to speed
And
you
so
up, homie.
in October
I'd
of
hate to tell ya.
2018, thereabouts, Mr. Redlick moves back into the home. And what you'll hear from the Redlick children is that there's sort of this period where what was frequently a very toxic relationship between the parents seemed to be trending in a better direction. There wasn't quite the number of arguments, and maybe things were starting to improve. But in December, Ms. Redlick, the defendant, makes a fateful decision. She joins a dating site called meetmindful.com. And you're going to hear from the owner of that dating website, Keith Gruen, and you're going to see the records related to Ms. Redlick's membership in that dating website.
To be
And
fair,
that she
hold
put
on a
herself
sec.
down in December 5th of 2018, is that she was looking for a long-term relationship. This is the dating website.
So to be fair, to at least for Ezra, although her injuries were self-inflicted, she did take the time to have them documented and seek medical attention.
That defendant opens while her husband is laid out dead on the floor. It will be clear from Ms. Redlick's own statements that you hear in various recordings, her activity on that dating website, that Ms. Redlick never wanted to make this relationship work, that she was done. Despite the fact that she didn't go through the divorce, she was not interested in a life with Mr. Redlick. She wanted to be happy. And happiness for Ms. Redlick was a life beyond Michael. Let's return back to that home on January 12th, 2019. Ms. Redlick stops browsing Meet Mindful, and she begins
Y'all
to
ever hear of
search.
that?
And what you're going to see
I've never
through the
heard of
course
that
this
dating
case
website,
are
but
a
I don't
number
look
of
at dating
exhibits
websites.
that were produced
so.
from a digital forensic extraction from Ms. Redlick's phone. And so you'll see search history and
So
web history and
bright.
things of that nature. And what you'll see from these searches is that right around that time, right after she's done on the dating website, she begins searching for how to slit her wrists. This is at 7 o'clock in the morning. And you'll see that 7
Allie.
o'clock turns into 8 o'clock. So now we're 10 hours since she murdered her husband, and she continues to Google how to slit her wrists. She makes it to a website. How long does it take to bleed to death after slitting your wrists? 8 o'clock turns into 9 o'clock. Mr. Redlick has now been dead in that home for 11 hours. It is now 9:28 in the morning. Miss Redlick picks up the phone, and for the
Oh, come on.
and what you will hear, because you'll hear that recording, is Miss Redlick says, in the first words out of her mouth, the first version of events that she provides, standing in what appears to be out of a horror movie. I think my husband is deceased. He might have died of a heart attack. That's the first version she provides. What you will learn throughout the course of this case is that Miss Redlick makes many, many statements concerning the circumstances of Michael's death.
Many, many, huh?
And although the details will change from statement to statement, often in very significant ways, Danielle Redlick maintains.
I don't understand how people
did not
monumentally
kill her
mess
husband.
up in this day and age, frankly,
Why?
with all the true crime content
Why
there
does
is.
Miss Redlick say, after 11 hours in that home with that dead man, that she thinks that he died of a heart attack? The evidence is going to show that from the start,
Thank you,
this
Kezchick.
defendant did everything she could to avoid responsibility for her actions.
I just think it's lazy, frankly, Callie.
So what has
How
she been
can
doing
you-
for the last 11 hours?
come on.
The evidence will show that she engages in a significant but failed attempt to clean up the scene. You're going to see the photographs from when law enforcement arrived, everything that Ms. Redlick did to try to avoid responsibility,
You
to
had
try to
11
make this seem like something that it
hours.
wasn't.
How did you not clean were you-
Blood-soaked towels,
Oh, boy.
mops soaked in blood, a 5-gallon bucket full of pinkish water,
Ew.
the smell of cleaning fluid
Was it
striking the nose
Fabulosa?
of the law enforcement officers and CSIs that entered that home.
Wow.
Blood in the
Hey,
primary
recliner
bedroom
detective.
shower,
It's only Thursday where we are,
which you
babe.
will learn because you're going to hear from a DNA analyst from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, is Michael's DNA, is Michael's blood. So to have a clear picture, as clear a picture as you can about this crime scene and what Ms. Redlick in fact did, the state of Florida is going to present to you the testimony of an expert witness by the name of Stuart James. He is an expert in blood stain pattern analysis. And what he's going to tell you is he's going to tell you that he looked at all the photos in the scene and he can offer some descriptions about what the blood says about what happened. How there are stains that are sort of textbook examples of wipes with an object. That this scene had basically been obliterated by Miss Redlick. What he'll tell you is had Miss Redlick not chosen to try to make this seem like it was something it was not, had she not endeavored to clean up this horror scene,
Never.
he may have been able to tell you where the stabbing occurred and where Mr.
I thought
Redlick
you were
walked
here, recliner, in
after
the
he was
United
stabbed.
States.
But because of this defendant's
But
efforts to
it
cover things up,
feels like it's been
he won't be able
incredibly
to offer
long
you that
week
testimony.
to me too, for no reason.
You're also going to hear from a number of individuals who have expertise in fields of digital forensics and cell phone analysis. You're going to hear about, as you've already heard, this extraction that's produced from Ms. Redlick's phone. So in addition to getting the data from the phone, law enforcement requested what are called the call detail records from Ms. Redlick's phone and Mr. Redlick's phone. And what those are records from the cellular provider that show calls and texts between numbers.
45, Molson, man.
We had those mapped. You're going to see a mapping presentation to sort of see where Mr. Redlick was, where Miss Redlick was, sort of through this time period. But when you look in those records, you see something that you don't see in Miss Redlick's phone. What you will learn is that the records from the cellular carrier show that Mr. and Mrs. Redlick were texting in the day leading up to his death. That is beyond dispute. But when the digital forensics person goes and extracts the phone, those text messages aren't there. Miss Redlick has deleted those conversations.
Oh,
So in
we've
addition
got
to
our,
obliterating
got
the physical
ourselves an
evidence on the
NK.
scene, she obliterates any record of this particular conversation. And all of this relates to two things. Evidence that the state is going to offer to show Ms. Redlick's consciousness of guilt, as well as the evidence that she is guilty of tampering in addition to murder. So I told you that Michael was stabbed in the shoulder. That's not the end of it. You will hear from the medical examiner, Dr. Sarah Zinovich, and she's going to talk to you about the many injuries that Mr. Redlick sustained, that he has multiple incised wounds. Incised wounds are wounds that come from a sharp and cutting object to his eye and to his torso, that he has bruising through his arm and chest and under his lip and on his temple. She will tell you how some of those are characteristic of what can be referred to as defensive wounds. Let's return back to that 911 call that's in progress. I told you that Ms. Redlick provides her first story, that he died, that she thinks he's dead, and that she thinks it could be from a heart attack. But within a couple of breaths, we hear the second story. Ms. Redlick says that there was an altercation, that she went and grabbed a knife, that Mr. Redlick took the knife from her and stabbed himself. So now he hasn't died of a heart attack. He stabbed himself.
My bad. She's 47,
She runs to the bathroom, locks herself in the bathroom, and comes out sometime later and finds her husband dead on the floor.
She was 45 when she did it.
So within a couple of breaths of that first story, the jury will hear the second story.
Sorry.
Winter Park Police Department and EMTs arrive in response to this call, and they encounter Ms. Redlick. Because Ms. Redlick had followed through on those searches and in fact slit her wrists, both of her wrists, and bled all through the scene because of that choice, she is taken to the Advent Health Orlando Hospital. And what you will have an opportunity to review are a number of sort of sources of evidence from that hospital admission. You're going to see photos of Ms. Redlick when she was at the scene. You're going to see multiple photos of Ms. Redlick at the hospital, taken by Winter Park Police Department. But in addition to that, you are going to hear from Dr. Kristen Vandervelde. It's actually going to be a video because she was not available to appear at this particular trial. You're going to see in that video her being the attending ER physician, what Ms. Redlick told her about her condition, what Ms. Redlick said were her complaints, and what she observed from her examination of Ms. Redlick. And ultimately, what you'll find out is that Ms. Redlick has slits to her wrist and a bruise on her arm. And that's it. Ms. Redlick, when she is when she has had an opportunity to describe any complaints that she has to the doctor,
she was 45 at the time, so in 2019, right? So 2 years ago. So I added 2 to 45 and got 47.
Responds to the scene. The lead detective in this case who responds to the scene is Detective Pamela Ware.
And
Detective Ware
Heather, you don't have to be sorry about being jaded, because I feel like we're not laughing at the crime, but we are laughing at the stupidity of the excuse.
A man has stabbed himself. A man has a heart attack.
There's nothing wrong with that.
What they've just encountered inside this house, and we get more of a story from Ms. Redlick. Ms. Redlick tells Detective Ware about sort of the events that led up to Michael killing himself. Because that's what she's saying. That Michael
I know. Where's Betty's Beauties when we need her?
And had become very upset about it, and that led to the argument.
Oh, nonstop, Mom. Well, go make me, sweetie.
And that is the precipitating event that leads to apparently his suicide.
Thanks for popping in. I know I came 30 minutes later than I normally
Michael
do.
Redlick throughout this case may not reflect positively on him. Certainly, the allegations of infidelity and maybe some aspects of how he reacts to finding out that his wife is talking to another man when they're on the mend is understandable, and maybe some of it will not be understandable.
That's right. Get whatever character flaws he has out of the way right now.
How important it is in determining whether Ms. Redlick is guilty of this crime. You'll learn that because Ms. Redlick has attempted to kill herself, and the evidence will show that this is another example of Ms. Redlick's efforts to avoid responsibility for this crime.
Trigger warning. Sorry, I had no idea. I forgot she tried to do this. It's my bad.
She's been Baker Acted. And this Baker Act will lead to 3 additional statements that you hear. While in the Baker Act facility, this defendant calls Detective Ware. You'll hear the call. And I want you to listen closely to the call, because a couple of things are going on in the call. One, you're going to hear Ms. Redlick probing for information. You're going to hear her somehow hopeful, that this is not going to turn into a murder investigation. that law enforcement is going to encounter that scene and say, yep, this looks like a suicide. Yep, maybe a heart attack, and sort of close a book on it. You'll hear her hopeful that outcome is still one that's possible.
Well, they don't have hairdressers in jail, babe. That's correct.
Pay attention. You'll hear Miss Redlick say, what I told the dispatcher was the truth.
And I know she had one point, a
private she provides in that 911 call is the real story. I've already given you the real story. And she also will say something important.
But I don't know who if
Miss Redlick will say, I've already
what
told
she has now.
The folks in
I'll
here
have to look it up.
What happened. So what did she tell the folks in the mental health facility? Well, you're going to hear from Frederick Copeland, who was basically assigned to babysit Miss Redlick. Completely unaffiliated with law enforcement, a third neutral party. And you'll hear from Mr. Copeland that Miss Redlick gives maybe a slightly different version, but once again maintains that she did not kill her husband. So we have dispatcher, detective, Mr. Copeland. Then you're going to hear from another person who encountered Miss Redlick while at that mental health facility, DCF, Child Protective Investigator, Carolyn Tucker. And Miss Tucker has to interview Miss Redlick because the children have no one to be with. They have no local family. Their father is dead and their mother is committed to a mental facility. And so the Department of Children and Families can't just say, hey, kids, you figure it out. They have to make sure that whoever these children are going to end up with have been vetted, that the mother has been talked to. Miss Tucker is not in law enforcement. She has a separate role that relates to the welfare of children. And you will hear the detailed account that Miss Redlick provides to Miss Tucker. Once again, I did not kill my husband. I did not kill my husband.
We're not sure.
You'll also hear jail calls that Miss Redlick placed while she was in custody. And you'll hear her say that she knew she was lying, that she was lying purposefully.
Oh, geez, Danielle, you got caught on the jailhouse calls too.
And finally, you're going to hear a recorded statement from Miss Redlick.
Oh, bro.
Because on the 18th of January, law enforcement, Miss Redlick has been released. She's at her home, and they've obtained another search warrant to locate some additional items inside the home and to obtain Miss Redlick's DNA. And you will hear Miss Redlick incredulous that she's under investigation, unable to understand why the police would think she's responsible for what they encountered in that house on the 12th. And you will hear her plaintively say, I did not kill my husband. So if it wasn't clear from every other statement, she makes it loud and clear that Miss Redlick is saying over and over again, I'm not responsible for this. This is 6 days later. She has 11 hours to come up with her first story, and she had 6 full more days to continue to maintain this.
Ever.
Along the way, telling people that Mr. Redlick took his own life. Because that's what Miss Redlick has claimed throughout, with no qualifications. You're going to hear from a number of witnesses. You're going to hear from witnesses that knew Mr. Redlick from work. You're going to hear from witnesses that knew Michael from his involvement in his children's lives, families that knew him from sports that Sawyer was involved in. They'll shed some light about the relationship. They will also shed some light about how Danielle and Michael were acting just hours before she murdered him. And they'll also shed some light on the fact that Mr. Redlick never would have harmed himself. Despite what Miss Redlick wants everyone to believe, Mr. Redlick would not have harmed himself. What the evidence is going to show throughout this case is that Miss Redlick armed herself with a knife.
I'm going to have to take
she used that knife to cause multiple injuries.
50 points off of the opening for the licking of the finger. Sorry, it's gross.
Stab to the shoulder, which enters, travels, hits these major veins, and punctures his lung, causing him to bleed to death on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to remember that phrase, bleed to death, because it won't be the last time that you hear it in this case. The evidence will show from that point forward, this defendant did everything she could to avoid responsibility. She cleans up the scene, she deletes the text, and she tells everyone that will listen that she is not responsible for this crime. Members of the jury,
Right, Shmita?
throughout this case, the evidence will show that despite her many claims that she had nothing to do with this,
He's touched that podium.
fact,
I can't now.
she
I
did.
can't focus.
In fact, she is guilty of second-degree murder with a weapon and tampering with evidence.
Oh, so they're only going for second-degree murder.
Thank you, Mr.
Interessante.
Wiggins. Ms. Conlon?
All right. Let's see what her attorneys have to say. She's all right. Hold on. All right. Yeah, she's charged with second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. So, no, babe. No, Shmita. No. No, they cannot. What would make you think they can? No, babe. Here in the United States, they could have if they had charged her with that initially, right? Then they can up the charge at a later date, right? But once the trial comes, there's no later date. No. So you only it goes what works the other way. So you can be charged with first-degree murder, right? But the jury, if allowed, can find you guilty of a lesser charge, but not the not the other. They can't be like, oh hey, we're gonna we've heard some new testimony in this trial, stuff that we didn't know about before, so bitch, you going down for first degree. Sorry. They can't do that, babe. No. All right, hold on. I haven't seen Johnny Depp last night. I at his concert. I'll have to look it up. Hold on. All right, let's see what her defense attorney has to say. Come on, catch up, pewter. Brett, what are you doing?
On the night of January 11th, 2019, someone was very, very angry. This someone started to physically attack their spouse. They had rage. They were choking their spouse, smothering their spouse. That someone was Michael Redlick. And Danielle Redlick had no choice but to defend herself because she was afraid she was.
All right. So what I'm thinking of, the reason I'm thinking that, Allie, is because so first degree is premeditated. And what I suspect is that regardless of all of the evidence that they found, I don't think they felt confident in charging her with first degree premeditated murder. So second degree, yeah, is a little bit is much easier to maybe I really feel like they just don't think that they could they felt confident that they could get a conviction on first degree. And plus now I have not done any other looking into the case other than what I told you guys before when we started, but I would think that when a prosecutor starts their opening when they give their opening statements and they include in their opening statements that you're going to hear some character flaws. There's going to be some things that he did that you don't agree with. There might be some things that you do agree with. You see what I'm saying? So that's probably why they felt like they could not secure a first degree murder case. No. This trial is today. This trial's live. The crime happened in 2019. Sorry. Now I don't even know what date it is. Yeah. So this is a current live trial. but it's happening now in 2022. But yeah, okay. She's been wearing her mask the whole time. I was watching yesterday the day before yesterday, and they had some preliminary arguments that they were going through, and she wore her mask the entire time.
Is going to die.
And
so she did. State is right. You are going to hear about the night of January 11th, 2019. You are going to hear about anger. You're going to hear about
Here comes
hatred.
Allie.
You're going to hear about rage. You're going to hear about infidelity that made Michael Redlick angry. You're going to hear about a violent attack in the kitchen. And then you're going to hear about Danielle Redlick and how she reacted in confusion, in despair, in trauma. You will hear that, yes, Danielle Redlick did stab Michael Redlick. And you're going to hear how she reacted in that shock, in that confusion, and in that despair. You'll hear that her reaction afterwards.
I'll be right back.
To the master bathroom.
Schmida and Molson Manor in charge.
Michael Redlick. And this is the room that she had retreated to the night before, where Michael Redlick had followed her and had kicked open that locked bathroom door. And when she came out of that bathroom, when she thought it was safe, she sees a trail of blood that leads all the way from the bathroom to the living room. And you will hear about her emotions on seeing this, and that she reacted in confusion because she had only stabbed him one time in the shoulder, and he had followed her to the bathroom. But you're also going to hear about how we got to this point, how Danielle Redlick knew and recognized that the danger that she was facing that night was different than the other incidents of abuse that had happened throughout their marriage. So let's go back to the beginning. In Cleveland, Ohio, Danielle's mom is separated. Her name is Kathleen. And Kathleen is separated. She starts dating and she meets somebody. Danielle's mom, Kathleen, and this man love each other, and so they move in together. And they're together for 3 years before they get married. And that person becomes Danielle's stepfather. That man was Michael Redlick. Now, 3 months after they get married, Kathleen passes away from breast cancer. And Michael Redlick still has one of Kathleen's daughters, 16-year-old daughter. So he asked Danielle to move into his house and to help take care of her sibling. And she agrees. So she moves in to help take care of her sister. And Michael worked for the Cleveland Browns. And he promises to help give her references, to connect her with job connections. Danielle has a second job at a bar. And Michael starts visiting this bar at night, more and more frequently to visit Danielle. And then soon, Michael starts inviting her to concerts, to events, to things that she's never experienced before. And she's worried about how this relationship will impact her family. But Michael dismisses those concerns because it's not really an equal partnership. Michael views Danielle and treats her in an authoritative way. And during this time in Ohio, there was a time where they were driving in the car and Michael hits her and Danielle hits him back. Now, Michael starts to want to go to a different job, the Memphis Grizzlies. So he interviews for a new position there and he gets the job. He moves and he wants Danielle to come with him, but she doesn't want to go yet because she doesn't want to leave her family. So he buys her plane tickets so that she can come visit him every weekend. And he promises and tells her for a year that with his contacts, she could get a job, a promising job there. And she finally agrees. And so she moves down. And Michael is pretty violent with Danielle on several occasions. You will hear about one particular incident where Michael punched her in the face, bruised her face, and chipped her tooth. It was so bad that Michael had to take her to go see a doctor. So he takes her to his team's doctor, Dr. Frederick Azar. And Dr. Azar sees her injuries, refers her to a dentist and a plastic surgeon. You will hear from Dr. Azar during this trial. And there was another incident that just accidentally happened to be witnessed by someone else. They were living in Memphis. Danielle and Michael were home. Danielle's sister was coming by to pick up her daughter, Melanie's daughter. And when Melanie walked through the doors, she could hear screaming and yelling. And so she walks towards that yelling and screaming. She walks into their master bedroom and sees that Danielle is pinned to the closet by Michael. You will also hear from Melanie during this trial. Now, Michael and Danielle have their first child, Jaden. They have their second child, Sawyer. And throughout these years, Michael is unhappy. And so unhappy with his work. So when his boss leaves for the 49ers, he gets a job with the 49ers and they move there. And after a while over there, he is unhappy with his work. So then he moves to the Indy Motor Speedway, gets a job there. During this time, Michael is drinking heavily. He is being more aggressive. He is unhappy. And Danielle finds out that he's got low testosterone and erectile dysfunction. And Michael's issue with ED becomes a preoccupation. Now they move to Orlando in 2014. Michael takes a position with UCF. Their marriage is deteriorating. Michael's doctor begins to prescribe higher levels of testosterone. He's being aggressive, more aggressive with Danielle. There's an incident where he does something to her and she has to go to the emergency room. There's another one where Michael loses control, sees red, accelerates the car, and if Danielle had not jumped out of the way, he would have hit her. So she reports that to the Winter Park Police Department. But when they tell her that they're going to interview Michael, she's afraid that Michael is going to get in trouble. So she walks out of the Winter Park Police Department. Now, Danielle discovers that Michael is having an affair. And Danielle knows that the marriage is just falling apart and that's not healthy for her. It's not healthy for the children. So she's the one who files for divorce in March of 2017. But Michael just begs her to come home, to get back together. Michael threatens Danielle financially, threatens to take away the children, keep the house, and send her back to Cleveland. So Danielle relents. And during those divorce proceedings, Michael avoids service of process of those divorce papers. Now, Michael moves back into the house November of 2018. He's sexually aggressive, he's physically aggressive, and everything is focused on sex, and the injections aren't working properly. And by the end of 2018, Danielle joins dating apps. They're only casual text and flirtation. She never meets up with the men. On January 10th, 2019, Michael Redlick discovers those texts with other men, and that is when all hell broke loose. On January 10th, 2019, Danielle left her cell phone on the bedside, and she goes to shower. When she comes out of the shower, Michael is sitting in the corner of the bedroom. He's angry. He's upset. He's angry and upset because he's discovered a text from a man named Caesar. And she tries to explain that she joined these dating apps when they were going through their divorce. And he's so angry. He's like, do you have plans with your lover boy? He's very sarcastic. She tries to go get dressed. He follows her. He's angry and fuming. And she's afraid that he's going to hit her, but he doesn't. So she leaves the house and she goes to, just to get out of the house, she goes to DSW, she goes to the Gap. Michael follows her. He confronts her at the Gap and he's fuming and he's yelling at her in front of the store. They walk to the car, to her car. He walks to her car, follows her, and he's still yelling at her. And she just tells him, we'll talk when you're calm. Michael eventually leaves. And Danielle just waits and sits in her car. She has an interview later that afternoon, so she heads home to get prepared for her interview. He seems angrier. So she has her computer set up in the kitchen table, and he slams the computer shut and says, "You're not going to get a job in this town." So Danielle gets her computer. She walks out to her car, rolls up all the windows, and starts her interview. Michael follows her and is pounding on the windows, on the door, yelling at her. So she drives off. Later that night, she heads home. And Michael is there. He's slamming things. He's drinking. And Michael confronts Danielle. More of the same. Are you with your lover? Asking sarcastic questions about lover boy. So she leaves again. He texts her more of the same questions. Where are you? Are you with your lover boy? During this time, Sawyer, who is the son, is inside the house. It's Michael, Sawyer, and Jaden. Michael and Jaden are screaming at each other. Sawyer is scared. Danielle finds out about it. Danielle gets dinner for the family, brings that dinner home. And Michael is still upset. He is still angry. He is grabbing at Danielle. He's getting aggressive. It gets so bad, she runs into the master bathroom, locks it behind her. Michael runs behind her and kicks open the door, damages that locked bathroom door. So Danielle runs to a closet to hide.
I hope you're paying attention to all this door talk, because clearly
Now, all
doors
the
work
kids are in the
very
house,
differently
and
in Winter
Jaden
Park, Florida
lets
than they
Danielle know
do
that
in
she
every
thought
house
she has a friend who's going to let
Amber
her
Heard
spend
and
the night,
Johnny Depp ever
so
lived
she
in.
needs a ride. And Danielle sees how violent Michael is getting and how drunk he's getting. And so she has to get out of there too. Danielle takes Jaden to her friend's house and then goes somewhere else to park her car and just wait it out. Sawyer stayed in his room. And Danielle is getting updates from Sawyer as to when it is safe for her to come back home, because she knows
Let
that
me speed her
Michael
up just a
is going to pass
scotch.
out, and it's going to pass out pretty soon because he's been drinking a lot. So Sawyer is trying to tiptoe
Oh,
around the
she's
house
already
to
sped
turn
up.
on
This
lights for
is her at
Danielle.
125. Oh my gosh.
Make sure that, yes, Dad has passed out. He's asleep. And Sawyer goes to open up a garage door so that Danielle can sneak back into her own home. And Danielle waits until the coast is clear before she sneaks back in. Now, the next day,
Does she not? Where's her car?
Michael wakes up, and he wakes up screaming for Danielle. Where are you? He goes upstairs to the loft where she's sleeping. He is upset, mad at her today, and threatening her. He leaves for work. And fast forward
Thank
to
God.
that afternoon when Danielle picks Jaden up from school.
That's all we're fast forwarding to?
When Michael gets home, he demands of Danielle, you better have a good excuse as to where you've been. Michael is still angry, and he leaves to go buy a new bottle of vodka. Danielle goes to take a shower, and Michael harasses her there. And that night, Michael has to go coach Sawyer's baseball game, and Danielle drives separately to go to that game. And the kids, Sawyer and Jaden, both had plans that were made a lot earlier about not sleeping at the house. So they have sleepovers that were pre-planned.
Oh, don't say pre-planned.
So after the game, Michael gets home. Danielle leaves the house. And around 10 p.m., she goes to McDonald's. After McDonald's, she heads home. And Michael is there. He is pounding down the vodka. He grabs her food, and then he goes at her. He is in a rage. And this rage is the angriest that she has ever seen him. It's worse than any of those other incidents. It's different.
Oh,
He pushes her down.
Now
She
nobody.
goes to her knees.
We're
He
all
pulls
not going
her
to be
up by
able
the
to
hair.
unsee it.
He shoves her to the kitchen island. He chokes. He smothers her. She reaches into a drawer. She grabs a knife. She stabs him one time.
We're all
He
going to
is stunned.
suffer with you.
He releases her, and she runs to the bathroom. Michael follows her to the bathroom, and he is still yelling at her. And eventually, he's not yelling anymore. And time ticks by. She waits till it's safe for her to come out. And when she opens the door of her hiding place, her whole world changed. She's not expecting to see what she saw. Why? Because she only stabbed him one time in the shoulder. He didn't fall in front of her. He, in fact, followed her to the bathroom, and he was still yelling. She wasn't trying to kill him. She was trying to protect herself on someone who was bent on attacking her. So she panics. She's scared. She's traumatized. She's confused. She's in shock. You will learn that it was one stab wound. That is the crime. When Danielle walked out of the bathroom, her safe haven, the same place that she had retreated to the night before, when Michael kicked open that locked bathroom, yes, Danielle was confused and she was panicked. And she reacted in that confusion and panic. The question that you will need to answer at the end of this trial is, at the time that Danielle Redlick stabbed Michael Redlick, was that done in self-defense? That night, Michael Redlick felt betrayed. He was angry, and he attacked Danielle. At the end of this trial, we will ask you for a verdict that is consistent with the evidence, consistent with the law, and that is a verdict of not guilty.
Thank you, Ms. Conlon. State your first witness.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So there we are. That's how it's happening. Where are they showing that? Cement shoes. Let me hit up the Googles. Is that a better one? Should we be following that one? Let me look. Cause Brophy. Oh, is that the yes. Yes, they've already reached a verdict. Yes. I remember this now. Mm-mm. Yeah, no, this isn't going to be her make or break case, Allie. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to end for tonight because I got started a little bit late, but I'm going to watch tomorrow, and I'm going to give you guys the best of the testimony or whatever. And let me just say this. There's a couple of other trials that are supposed to start in June. So if this one doesn't like keep our attention or it's too short, we'll figure something out. I'll figure something out. Don't y'all worry. But for now, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you to the mods. Hey, Turtle Dove. And I will be back live tomorrow night, and I'll put together something a little more cohesive for us to have some better. I'm always lately, even before the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, lately the opening statements just have not been doing it for me. Like they've not at all been what I'm used to. But there's a Playboy model who is accused of unaliving her psychiatrist. That's coming up too. So we may have to switch a couple back and forth. Yeah, Turtle Dove, you did, babe, but that's all right. I'll be back tomorrow night. I started late tonight, and but I'll be back tomorrow night. And Father's Day stuff. Oh yeah, I've got. So I decided to do do it two ways. So I'm gonna have the family annihilators, and then I'm gonna do the serial killers who involved their kids in their crimes. So I'm going to do that too. So we'll have stuff to do if this doesn't like keep our attention, but I kind of want to see it just because I'm curious as to what her defense is going to be, really, more than what I mean, I know kind of what the prosecution has. They just yeah, you didn't miss anything. But remember, this is our like what is that? What is it? Our rebound. You know, this is the trial we're going to watch to get over the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, right? That's this will be our rebound trial. All right, you guys. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. All right. Thank you guys all for being here. All right. Good night, everybody. Bye.